Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the RCKK Pearl Vocational Service Talk series today. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday afternoon with us to listen to our speakers and support this initiative. We will be having two photo sessions today, one at the beginning and the other at the end of the talk. So please switch on your videos now if you haven't for the first group photo, and then we will begin the talk. Okay, everybody, look into the camera and not the screen. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Thank you very much. Now let us continue. Okay, so the RCKK Pearl Vocational Service Talk series is part of an initiative to introduce and educate both Rotarians and non-Rotarians alike on what Rotary is, as well as bring beneficial and insightful information and skills through short-form vocational and knowledge sharing by Rotarians from within and outside the club. The initiative also includes a workshop series that will be kickstarting on December 4, 2021 with the topic The Art of Giving Feedback, and I'll be sharing more information on that at the end of today's session. Now, a quote by Ronald Reagan says, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things." So this is the first talk in the talk series, and it will be focusing on the theme of leadership. We have two speakers today who are well versed in today's theme. We will be listening to their sharing on leadership in Rotary and ethical leadership. There will be a Q&A session after each speaker. Should you have any questions for them, feel free to post questions in the Zoom chat, and we will do our best to address them during Q&A. May I please request everyone present to mute your mics during the presentation to reduce or avoid any distracting sounds and noises. If you are able to, do switch on your video so we can see you. Before I introduce the first speaker, I'd like to welcome our president, the president of RCKK Pearl, Mayala Tan, to say a few words.
Thank you, Adelina, our Vocational Service Director. Very good afternoon to our PDG, Philip Chong, and also to our speaker, Andre Suharto, and our past presidents, our distinguished speakers, PDG Andre, and also to CP Tengku, Indra. I do not know whether my PE, Datu Amina, is on board. Fellow Rotarians from outside of Sabah, Johor Bahru, I see Kuching, Kulai. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. Thank you very much for attending the talk, which is being organized by our very own Vocational Service Director, Adelina. And I'm so very glad and honored to have a very good speaker, very distinguished speakers, so-called, very experienced and very knowledgeable. And Rotary Club of Kota Kinabalu Pearl is so fortunate to have the both of you accepting our invitation. Thank you so much. I would also like to inform our very own Rotarian Pearls, our guest who's attending today's talk. If you should have any questions, please do post questions, ask as many questions as you may, because take full advantage of our two distinguished speakers on board. So without further ado, thank you so much for this privilege of me just saying a few words to each and every one of you, welcoming you to our first vocational service talk, which is going to be in series. So I think Adelina marked a history today because she has invited two distinguished guest speakers of ours. So Adelina, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, President. Okay, so let me share. Our first speaker, PDG Indra Suharto, is a businessman who consults in SAP implementation. He's also in the vehicle and timber industry, and a well sought after speaker on public image, membership, and leadership. Born in Jakarta and now residing in Kuching, Sarawak since 1985, he is a charter member of the RC Kuching Central since 1986. He was the club president in 1995 to 1996 and thereafter has been very active at the district level. He was the first person appointed as district trainer as soon as RI allowed such position to be held by a non-PDG, and he is the first foreign person to be elected district governor in District 3310 for the Rotary year 2014-2015. Thereafter, he continued to be active in the district and zone levels, where he was the 2020 and 2021 Governor Nominee Training Seminar, GNTS Team Leader, and Trainer at Governors-Elect Training Seminar, GETS, for Zones 1B, 9, and 10. He was also the Rotary International Assembly Training Leader in 2020 and 2021 to train the last year and current year district governors respectively. Currently, he is the Rotary Regional Public Image Coordinator for Zones 10B and 10C, covering Brunei, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam for 2020 to 2022. He was recently conferred the District 3310 Governor's Special Award in May 2021 for his immense contributions in uplifting the standards of training in the district in his capacity as the District 3310 Learning and Development Committee Chairman. Today, PDG Indra is here to share the topic of leadership in Rotary. Please welcome PDG Indra Suharto.
Thank you very much, Adelina, Vocational Service Director of the Rotary Club of KK Pro. What an honor for me to be here this afternoon and to be invited on your first series of Vocational Service Talk. And congratulations for having that initiative. I believe this is the first time that I've been invited to talk virtually at your club, the Rotary Club KK Pro. And thank you, and I look forward to having a successful session later on. So very good afternoon to past District Governor Philip Chong and distinguished Rotarians, club leaders, district leaders, and as well as my fellow counterpart who is actually a member of the District Learning and Development Committee, which is actually Charter President Tengku Indra. So as I've mentioned to him earlier on, I thought that it is only to honor him that I need to make sure that I put on the bow tie and this suspended to steal a little bit of his copyright dress code in order to be in sync with him this afternoon. Let me just share with you the slide. I have a couple of slides that I would like to share. Okay, I'm not too sure whether you are seeing it. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Now, I'm not too sure where did the rest of you gone to, because somehow or other you all have disappeared. Oh, okay, I got it now. All right, let me just adjust my screen. Okay, this topic about leadership in Rotary, it's very apt, and I don't think so that this is the first time it has been discussed. I remembered I presented something like this on the same topic about leadership, not specifically in Rotary, quite some times back at the one of the district event, I think district assembly, if I'm not mistaken. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you my personal experiences, because all of you have you're all very qualified, and I'm sure a lot of members in Rotary Club of KK Pearl have high offices, especially those who have been in the government, civil service. A number of you, we even have what, former deputy state secretary, you got PERMSECs, and you got very high members who are in high office. So I'm not here to teach about leadership in Rotary, but I'm here merely to share with you my personal experiences about leadership in Rotary. Now, before I start, I would like to give a quotation of John Maxwell that says that why you lead and the way you lead are important, because it actually defines your character, who you are, your kind of leadership, and ultimately your contribution. And in this case, contribution to the district and to the club. And needless to say, the different kind of leadership styles between a profit-making organization like companies and as well as in Rotary are definitely different. And I think you're all aware about this, right? And to start off with, I also would like to quote from John Maxwell, the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. By the way, when we talk about leadership, I think Tengku is the domain expert in this leadership talk, right? So correct me if there are certain things that I may not have portrayed correctly, Tengku, later on. So this afternoon, I'm not here to talk about the qualities of a leader, but rather to talk about the 10 leadership styles in Rotary. It is not in any particular of importance, but again, as I mentioned earlier on, these are based on my personal experiences. Leadership in Rotary commands these 10 things that I thought are relevant in order for you to be able to be respected and to be able to empower people who are actually under your leadership. So I'm not going to talk about this one by one right now because I have slides for those. So just enough to say that these are the 10 things about leadership styles in Rotary that I thought will be very, very important. So we start off with the 4A test. As you all know, as Rotarians, we have the 4A test. But the question is, how many of us actually embrace the 4A test? Before you embrace the 4A test, we must believe in the 4A test. Only then we can embrace it. So we have then got to internalize it. And needless to say, I think all of you should be familiar about the 4A test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I can tell you it is very, very difficult to practice. And what we need to do is to implement this not only within our Rotary circles, but in our business and professional life as well, so that it is consistent across all your different kind of works that you are being given that you need to discharge of. So let me bring you back to history. Everybody now should know that Rotary was set up in 1905 by Paul Harris, and he brought along 3 other of his friends, right? As you can see, right, these 4 of them, they're all from Chicago. They decided to set up an organization called Rotary. But then they find that by just having 4 of them being friends, because friendship was the foundation in which Rotary was built, it is not enough. They thought that they can do more than just that. Rather than mingling around, having a chat, having coffee with one another, they thought that they can do much better things by being together for the community. Although all of you, and I think you're all aware, the foundation upon which Rotary was built is actually friendship. That's why we actually faced, or rather emphasized a lot about fellowship, right, in any activities. And I'm not too sure how many of you were aware, but it was not in the 1922 at the Los Angeles Convention that Rotary became known as Rotary International. And it was the same year that the object of Rotary was adopted, and it was made part of the standard club constitution. Now, specifically on the vocational service, I would like to draw your attention to item number 2 of the object of Rotary, and that is where we talk about high ethical standards in business and professions. So we must remember, as Rotarians, we must have high ethical standards in business and professions. And that is something that sometimes we forget in the way we act, in the way we do things, right? So this is something that I think sometimes we need to keep on rereading it so that we can internalize the 4A test and be able to exercise upon it and display it to people that we interact with on a daily basis. I'm not too sure how many of you were aware that the 4A test actually was invented by this Herbert Taylor, or rather crafted by Herbert Taylor. In 1930, it was in the midst of the Great Depression, and he was with a company that have that nearly gone bankrupt. And he kept on praying to see what can be done to differentiate his company with other companies, specifically his competitors. And then he sat down, and I understand that from what I have read, he prayed regularly to get guidance from the Almighty. He came out with the 100 words, 7 parts, and it was called the 7-way test. And he was not satisfied because he thought that it was a bit too long. And eventually it was reduced to 25 words and 4 parts, which is now called the 4-way test. And you know, in 1942, the 4-way test was adopted by the board as a component of the vocational service program. And in 1954-55, when Herbert Taylor became RI president, the copyright of the 4-way test was transferred from him to RI at no charge. And today, this 4-way test is in fact very much our guiding principles, together with the object of Rotary. And over the years, when we become a Rotarian and we are supposed to embrace and practice this, it has become our culture. And eventually, they are actually our traits. It is showing in us. And these traits over time gave rise to our core values. And there are 4 of them: leadership, service, right? Diversity. As you know, we have clubs, 35,000 clubs over 200 countries. We have members of diversity in the community. And with diversity, we have very much innovative ideas for us to implement in our community services. And the fact that we embrace the 4-way test, we should have high integrity. And in the process of doing all this, we enjoy our fellowship. Because why? As I mentioned earlier on, in my other presentation on the action plan, Rotarians invest in what we call the human capital, because we can then draw on our strength to be able to customize solutions to address the needs and wants of the communities. And this is our brand, the Rotary brand. And that core values cannot be changed. The other component that is quite important, one of the 10, is about emotional intelligence. And I think in order for you to become a good leader in Rotary, being a non-profit organization, having a high level of emotional intelligence is very, very, very important. Then this includes humbleness, being approachable, right? You have no air, and you are always aware of how people are actually responding to you and interacting with you, and make regulations and self-adjustment, right? So that you can have good empathy. And in return, when people start talking and interacting with you, this can also motivate you as a leader, in return of you motivating them to be able to want to follow you. And therefore, this social capital, social skills and empathy, to me, are 2 very, very important components of emotional intelligence in organizations like Rotary. You know, if there is any conflicts, if you have good empathy and social skills, you probably have won half of the battle in trying to resolve any conflict. So this is actually a very good asset. And emotional intelligence, I find that this is key in winning the hearts of people around you. Now, I am not too sure how many of you have taken up the test on what they call it, the personality test. There is one which is called DISC. I remembered I implemented this and get all the PEs many years ago to take this test, so that they will be able to identify in which quadrant they actually belong to in terms of characteristic. So if you know that you are very aggressive, right, and you are very critical, you will be able to know what kind of adjustment that you need to make when you are communicating with people of certain characteristic. And if you have not done it, I think it'll be good for you to just go through it and have a test. They call it the ISC, and see which quadrant actually you belong to understand yourself better. Next, about sincerity. As a leader in organization like Rotary, sincerity is actually very, very important. And this goes hand in hand with the 4-way test. Is it the truth? And so there is a saying that over here that I'm showing in front of your screen that says that, water, which is very fluid and very soft, can erode a harder substance like stone. Similarly, sincerity can melt the coldest heart. So if you are really sincere, people will be very comfortable in dealing with you. They have no suspicion over you, and they'll be very open to you. And you know what? In that process, it will make it easier to resolve things that you may not see eye to eye with the other party. Why? Because they trust you and they know that you are being sincere. There is nothing that you hide when you talk to them. Now, as a leader, sometimes you want to inject new ideas in Rotary. But because it is a non-profit organization and everyone is a volunteer, it is very important that these ideas that you have could have been better discussed with fellow Rotarians, the stakeholders, and talk about the benefits that they can actually derive from these ideas once it's being implemented. And based on that feedback, you can fine-tune it and repeat until you have the support of the majority. This is a buy-in process. In this organization of non-profit in nature, you cannot make a unilateral decision and shove this decision on the throat of Rotarians. You may face, or likely you will face, resentment, and people will not be able to buy in. You must remember, all Rotarians are leaders in their own profession. So as leaders, the approach that you take in introducing new ideas for implementation is different from you as a boss introducing new ideas for implementation in your own company. So this buy-in process may take time. So therefore, as a leader, you need to be patient. You cannot just take an idea and implement it right away. Okay? And when you have something that you need to decide, it will be good to get the opinion of the stakeholders, especially those in the committee, and by being inclusive to make sure that everyone actually, everyone's opinion is being evaluated and valued. There could be a possibility of somebody who provided feedback to you, but you brush it aside. That is not good, right? And you may not mean it, but the words that you say portray or give the perception to the other party that that is what is meant. And that's why body language is also very important, sincerity and the 4-way test. So as I mentioned, your social skills and empathy is very important, because if that was what you meant as far as benefits of this idea is concerned, and because of your social skills and empathy and your sincerity is very high, they will believe what you say. And therefore, they know that you are being transparent and that you are being fair. So the impact of this decision-making by consensus will be seen by the stakeholders that you are a leader that is fair and that you listen to people and you are giving equality to everybody's view, and you are getting cooperation from the group members, and that you value contribution and you want everyone to collaborate. And by doing this, you make people feel good because you give them the impression that you treasure their opinion, you value their opinion. So when you value their opinion and you are being fair and transparent to everyone, people will find it comfortable working with you. And the moment you actually become a leader in, for instance, being chair of a particular committee, and when you invite Rotarians to come and be a member of the committee, I can tell you people will be rushing wanting to be in your committee. Because why? They like working with you. And you know what? As a leader, you not only draw upon them to share their experiences with you, but you uplifted them. You make them feel good, and they have a learning process that they value at the end of the journey with you. And that is very important. You make them feel great, right? Because you valued their opinions. Coaching and mentoring. In Rotary, I find that as a leader, you may need to do a lot more of coaching and mentoring. I'm sharing this with you, especially the fact that the past 2 years, I have been appointed as a zone coordinator for public image. And I can tell you the number of requests and queries that I have from Rotarians across, not only in Zone 10B and 10C, but I also have many Rotarians in the Philippines who want to talk to me, then to their counterpart in charge of Zone 10A, because they find that they are more comfortable dealing with me. Now, I'm not trying to brag myself, but sometimes it gives me in an awkward position because, you know what, I'm not in charge of Philippines. So I got to be mindful, and that is what I call empathy. While you are actually excited in wanting to help people on the other side, which is outside of your territory, but you got to be mindful that they are people who have been appointed in charge of that particular geographical location. You could be sincere, but you do not have empathy. So you know what, as a result, the leader who is in charge of that, of Philippines, may construe you as being busybody. So you got to know where to place yourself, right? And in coaching, it takes two to tango. If you are a leader that is always wanting to be, not approachable, then people who you want to coach may not want to come back to you for coaching as close as possible, right? Because why? They are afraid. They are afraid, and it's so difficult to get in touch with you that they just find it, oh, I might as well turn to somebody else to get coaching, right? So although as a leader, you need to spend time coaching and mentoring, you need to make sure that you are open, you are reachable, and you are sincere. Then what happens is that you will draw upon more and more Rotarians to come to you and draw support from you. And you know what? In return, as a leader, when you got so many people coming back to you, it helps to widen your experience and it helps to widen your knowledge. So it works in both ways. Not only the people who work with you, that you coach with, but you yourself as well will be able to draw inspiration from the job that you help in coaching and mentoring. And treat everyone with respect. No matter which level they are at, you treat them with respect because they have different perspective at different level of the hierarchy. And for all you know, what they share with you may be something that you didn't know, because they are looking at a different perspective from a different level. And therefore, this will enrich you as a leader, right? And therefore, if you treat everyone with respect, you will be able to draw more people coming back to you. Now, the last point that I would like to emphasize is always assume the positive. Now, this, I find, I'm not too sure whether it is culturally or not, but I see it as being prevalent in our society. I give you an example. If I am talking to somebody or a group of people, say maybe 5 of them, and you see one of them taking their handphone and not listening to you when you are speaking, what will be your first impression? You may think that, why is this person not listening to me what I'm talking? Maybe he thinks that what I'm saying is not important to him. But let me ask you this question. What if somebody sent him a message to say that his closest friend has passed away, and he didn't want to leave the room and disrupt everybody in the meeting, including what you are talking, and he decided maybe it'll be best to just send a short message. But we assume that he was not interested in what we are talking. And imagine if you make that approach based on your assumption, and then you found out later on that that was not the case. That is very bad. So my suggestion is always assume the positive until you have actually known the actual fact. Like the saying here, suspicion is creative in its nature. it can bring out and develop the very evil it conceives. So we should always assume the positive whenever we talk to any one Rotarian, whether it is a new Rotarian or whether it is a PDG or a past RI director or a director, no matter which level the other person is in. So my last parting message is that a quotation from John Maxwell. It says that leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others, make them feel great. You uplift them as a leader, and they learn something from you valuable. And that is what we want to do as a leader. And in return, if you can do that, we as a leader will become inspired and have a long way to go to achieve what we want to achieve in life. With that, I thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, PDG Andre, for your sharing today. There are so many leadership traits, and I especially like how you touched on emotional intelligence as a leader. Having awareness, empathy, and sincerity are important qualities of leaders, definitely. And being humble and respectful, regardless of the position of the people within your organization, can open up different point of views, because everybody has their own perspective on things. So wonderful. Now I'd like to open the floor to Q&A. Does anyone have questions?
Oh, I see District Governor here. How are you, District Governor?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm
Good
here to support
afternoon.
everyone here.
Thank you for
Good
attending.
afternoon, Mr.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Yes.
There's a question by District Governor Dolly there in the chat.
Okay, so
Or a
DG,
statement. She said
it was a statement.
Because you mentioned PDG, you mentioned that
Yes.
you are not you're not bragging yourself. I said, what is a why you have to sell yourself, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, DG.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have questions? I believe Bibi Kush.
There is somebody from Kuch there.
Question, PDG Andre.
Yes.
I think this has been discussed many times, but to get your perspective on it, are leaders born or are leaders made?
Cool. This is a wonderful and 1001 great questions, actually. A lot of people ask whether leaders, are they born or are they actually, they acquire the skill as they go. In my opinion, leadership qualities could have been in you, in the genes, all right? But it does not necessarily mean that a person who has got no such gene or genetics cannot become a leader. You can acquire it. And obviously, I think the difference between the two is that if it is in you, you probably will learn faster. That is my opinion, all right? But if it is in you, you can learn faster. But if it is not in you, maybe you got to work harder. But I believe you can acquire it, right? It's just like some people who pass an exam, right? Some who are so good because they have very high IQ, they don't have to learn, they don't have to read a lot, they don't have to do a lot of homework, and they pass with flying colors. But somebody who does not have the kind of level of IQ will have to work much harder, do a lot of revision and practice in order to maybe just pass, as an example. So, but at the end of the day, I think the interaction, the skills with people that you have is very important. Your emotional intelligence is very important. It is no point for you to be able to be so smart and yet your people relationship is very poor, because you will be confined to your own what do you call it, your own area, circle of friends, which is very limited. You know, in my opinion, the more friends you have, the more interaction you have, the more exposures you are going to get, because you are able to understand people from different perspectives and you learn from them. Does that answer your question? Maybe Tengku,
Yes and no.
maybe Tengku can help on that.
Okay, I think it's very
interesting question, which is often asked in any leadership seminar. If you take a look at all the traits that John Maxwell has outlined, they are all learnable traits. I mean, in other words, they are skills that you can be taught. And in corporation, those skills are skills that most companies would like their people to take. Now, the question is like what Andre said earlier on, some people catch very fast. So for example, some people are extrovert. That means they can communicate well and they can pick up that skills. But that doesn't mean that skill is definitely going to stick. They may be extroverts, speak very well, but they may overspeak and they become too loud. Then they have to learn how to be less extrovert, less vocal. There are some people who are introvert, they don't speak much, but in fact, many leaders in corporation are introverted. You know, so then they have to learn how to be extrovert at the right time, the right place. So these skills are interchangeable. Now, the question whether you are born leader or not, it could be intrinsic in you that you have those skills, but you may also be abusing those skills. You see how many leaders with all those skill sets, they abuse as leaders and they become terrible leaders in the world. You take a look at many presidents, I don't have to mention name, you know, of late, and how they have become such a nuisance to the world. They speak very well. They are very loud. So basically, it's a learnable skill. And in Rotary, we bring in certain skill sets in leadership and we can improve. I'm still continuously every day, I'm learning about leadership by looking at how other people, you know, I look at PDG Andre and how he behaves as a leader. I look at PDG Philip behaving so differently. The humility of PDG Philip is unmatched. To me, I mean, this is what I'm saying. It is not easy to learn that humility, but it's still a basic. The ability of clear thinking, positive thinking of Andre, you know, is really unmatched. So these are all the skill set that we can learn, provided we are willing to learn. I think the point is about willingness to learn and wanting to learn and to practice and practice and practice. And to me, Rotary provides the platform that we can practice it without fear. I can talk to Andre, I can talk to Philip, I can talk to Suharto. I don't care really what they were in the past. They could be minister, what, doesn't matter. But in Rotary, we are all equals. And that is the biggest opportunity in leadership I find in Rotary. I hope that kind of, you know.
Great, yeah, I concur with you, Tengku. Rotary is the platform that you can practice your leadership. And that's the reason why Rotary International has a joint collaboration, or rather set up a collaboration with Toastmasters, so that once you're able to master your public speaking skills, the next thing is you come to Rotary and get your experiences and practice your leadership. Because as a leader, you need to be able to talk, right? You need to inspire others by talking. Okay, so now there is a next question from Pauline, right? Is competition among team healthy? Why or why not? To me, I think competition, in a way, is healthy, but it depends on the objectives. If the objectives is you want to win because you want to look good and make the other person bad, then I think that is not very healthy. All right. But if you want to be able to do more than the other person, right? Because you find that this is a great opportunity to increase membership so that more people can get to know about Rotary, that's fine. And you know what? If you have an ulterior motive in doing something, your body language can show. You cannot hide. And people will know the way you speak, the way you behave, the way you act, people can smell it. And that's why I said, yeah, sincerity is very important. Sincerity, because they will, you know, we are not small kids. We are business and professional people with high ethical standards in our profession. So therefore, when, like what Tengku is saying, you know, you're observing each Rotarian, the way they talk, the way they actually do, the way they say, the way they write. Now, if your motive is not very clear and not very sincere, it will show. Believe me, because we are not small kids. It is not something that you can hide and pretend and you think you can pull your way through. We may not say anything. We may just keep it quiet, but that that could be your observation in you that you do not actually share with anybody else. All right, so that's my share.
Yes, thank you very much, PDG Andre, and thank you everyone for the questions. Unfortunately, we do not have time for your question at the moment, Edmund. Maybe we can take it off later on after the talk.
Okay,
Right,
thank you so much.
Thank you, PDG Andre. All right. Thank you everyone for the question. Now for our second speaker, I first met him during RLI Sabah last year, where he was one of the faculty speakers. CP Tengku Indra has also delivered a talk on the topic of resolving conflicts through negotiations during RCKK Pearl's regular club meeting in March 2021. He is the charter president of Rotary Club of Kampung Glam, Singapore. A Rotarian for 30 years, Tengku is very active in vocational service, having been awarded District 3310 Leadership Vocational Service Awards from 2014 to 2017. As the District Vocational Service Chair since 2020 until 2022, Tengku has been pushing actively the message vocational service is the bedrock of Rotary, and has conducted various talks promoting this message at district level. In terms of classification, Tengku, who is in management consultancy, is currently the Chief Mentor Officer of WISE Associates, a global management consulting practice group specializing in instituting stronger sense of wisdom and ethics in leadership and management for executives up to C-suite level. Please welcome CP Tengku Indra with his topic, Ethical Leadership. Tengku.
Thank you very much, Adelina, chairperson of this talk. Let me just share my slides first. All right. Okay. You can see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good.
No, we can't.
You can't see my slides now?
No, it's only the virtual background.
No, it's, can you see the slides now?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Okay.
Now we can.
That is my first one. Okay.
Oh.
Very good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairperson Adelina Adna, the presidential host, President Majella, DG Dolipo for coming to this talk and giving the support. Of course, my good friend and also my mentor, PDG Andre. I thoroughly enjoyed your session just now. PDG Philip Chong, who's always been following me. Sometimes I'm quite curious why he's following me, but he's always following me in almost every talk. So thank you very much, PDG Philip. PP, past president, fellow Rotarians, distinguished guests, and everyone present in this afternoon session. It's really an honor and privilege to be invited by KK Pearl for this talk. Last year, I also talked to this club, so it looks like it's going to be a yearly affair. So thank you very much for inviting me to your club. Now, my talk is going to be focused on the power of ethics in leadership. And I'm not necessarily just going to focus on Rotary. I'm going to talk in a broader sense, both in business, organization, as well as Rotary. I have 4 key messages to deliver. And let me start the first key message with a small little story. It's about petty cash. Long time ago, once upon a time, I was managing a business, a chemical business for a US company. And occasionally I do check on the account and also including petty cash. So there was one day I made a surprise check on the petty cash. Then I found that the cashier had $50 missing from the petty cash. So I asked the cashier, what happened to this $50 which is missing, which is not accounted? He looked at me, he was silent for a moment, then he said, actually, Mr. So-and-so borrowed this $50 from me. I don't have money to give it to him, but he borrowed because he was in a desperate need to have $50 to pay for his son's school fees. And I said, and you took it from the petty cash and gave it to him? Yeah, I did it. And because he said at the end of the month, when he gets his salary, he will give it back to me. I said, well, that was a very noble thing for you to help him on his monetary need, but that's not the right thing to do, to take from the petty cash. Let's call him. So I asked him, let's discuss this and let's see how we can look at this in perspective. So I called him and that guy, then I said, okay, this is what happened. Then he said, yeah, I borrowed because my sons, really, I don't have the money to pay for this. Okay, fine. I said, let's do it this way. I took out my wallet. I took $50. I gave it to him. I said, now you have this $50. I'm lending this to you on a personal basis. So you have this. So the loan is given to you and you have that money and you can pay for your son's school fees. But you take this money and put back into the petty cash. So the company accounts is straight. There is no personal use of the company account. So this was just a small little example. Then when I reflect on this, in business, in organizations, in commercial world, and even in Rotary, there are many times, no matter how small an issue we do, we have to do it right. So this brings me to my first message about ethics. And that is, there is no right way in doing the wrong thing. There's no right way in doing the wrong thing. The wrong thing is to use a company $50 and give to someone as a loan. This time it could be 50. Next time it could be 500. Next time it could be 500,000. It's not the amount, it's the intent which is wrong. And there is no right way of doing it. So we put it right. So you see, ethics is not something which is abstract. It's not something which is so high flown, but it's really very, very, very basic. So when you talk about ethics, and we are blessed being Rotarians. Why I say we're blessed, like what PDG Andre said earlier on, the founders of Rotary in 1905 envisioned that we could use our vocational ethics as a driving force in service. So our ethics is really the driving force in service. Not because we have a lot of money, not because we have a lot of talent, but basically it is the ethics. Whether we are a lawyer, mining engineer, merchant, coal dealer, or right now in your respective club, whether you are an architect, banker, researcher, or teacher, it doesn't really matter. Because in every profession, there's one word that exists, cuts across, and that is ethics. And your club, in your club, you bring into Rotary what I call the pearls of ethics. You bring the pearls of ethics into your club from your respective vocations. Public service sector. Many of you are from public service sector, using your vocation, using your ethics, leverage on it to come up with fantastic projects like the Pearl project, like the Real project. You could also be from the private sector. You could also be from NGOs, or you could be from entrepreneurial sector. So you bring all of this richness into your club. And that way, that's what makes your club wonderful and really distinct. And I don't think also there are not many clubs in the world, or even in at least in Asia, clubs with mother and daughter relationship in one club. That is really a significant thing, and how you manage that, that's really based on your ethics. So our vocations are intricately linked to ethics. Whatever vocation we are in, we intricately linked to ethics, and we are as strong as the weakest link in the chain. You may be strong in all the services, in all the departments, in all the divisions, but there's one area, $50 lost or $50 got taken out from the petty cash. That is the weakest link in the chain. But that must be connected. That must be removed. So my point here is, you may be wondering then, what is ethics? How do we define ethics? Like I say, it's not something which is high-flown, which is not something which is bombastic, but basically when we talk about ethics, we are talking about our moral beliefs deep inside our heart. It's in the heart. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It's our moral beliefs or principles that influence our behaviors or conduct as a leader in respecting others. This is ethics. How do we respect others? I mean, I agree with PDG Andre to say if somebody has got to take a phone while he's speaking, you know, it could be something urgent and all that. But there are also times where ethics in Rotary is really missing. I was at the district conference a few years ago in Penang, and we had a PDG from Bangladesh speaking. And the guy loves to talk. I think you know him very well. He loves to talk. We know that is his trait. Now, whether he talks very nicely, very openly, it's a material, but he was a PDG and he wants to share his experience, and he could be long-winded. But somebody in the audience were making a lot of noise, trying to distract the whole thing, and like saying that he is displeased with the way this guy talks. To me, that is unethical. You are in a conference, you're listening to someone, you don't like it, you get out. You don't distract other people who are listening. Like me, I was listening attentively to him. I know he's quite long-winded, but that's okay. He has a message to put across. So in this particular case, you don't like the thing, you get out. Don't distract other people who are interested. So respecting others is a very strong part of ethics, and obviously that's one of the 10 principles that that Andre was alluding just now, was mentioning. Respecting the laws, respecting the regulations, respecting the systems, the customs or beliefs of the people in the community we interact with. So it's not just ethics, it's not just about being legal. It's more than that. Certain things are not legal, but they are unethical. So basically, ethics is really our moral beliefs and how we conduct ourselves based on how we respect others. So at least, like in my case in Rotary, is ethics could simply means committing to an intention. If you take on a post, if you take on a project, there's no such thing to say, oh, I don't really have much time to commit to it, because after all, Rotary is a voluntary organization. No, that's beside the point. The moment we take a project, an office, you are committed to it. And if you cannot deliver it, get somebody else to help you. And if you cannot get somebody else to help you, get somebody else to replace you. So it's not a question of just simply carelessly saying, oh, since a Rotary is a voluntary organization, I can just simply do it, or if I don't do it. No, that's not the point. We are an organization that is built upon ethics. Keeping to promises, of course, related to this. If you say you are coming for the project meeting and for whatever reason you cannot come, we need to inform the chairperson, I'm sorry, I'm stuck somewhere. Please go ahead with the meeting, rather than keeping quiet and not responding, on the WhatsApp or whatever. And there are many things like speaking in front. Sometimes I do hear people in Rotary speak behind the back. And sometimes I caution them, hey, look, why are you talking about this PDG or this president or this club member behind his back? Talk in front of him. Then that's the real way to bring ethics to the forefront as a Rotarian. Respecting differences, giving sincerely. If we are giving something, whether opinion or gifts or whatever it is, we give it sincerely, we don't expect anything in return. When we give something, we give something in return. And that's what Andre was mentioning earlier on about, sincerity can really melt the cold heart. And I agree with Andre about the water can actually erode the hard concrete. I'm living in a house now, I was asking myself, how come there is water in my ground floor from my second floor? It was from the toilet, and the water has been eroding the waterproofing, and the water seeps too, which is very true. Over a period of time, sincerity can really erode hard feelings. Delivering quality. There is no excuse. In Rotary, we should really hold to the highest level of quality based on the time that we have. And finally, speaking graciously, using the right words, using the right synonyms, or using the right phrases in order to respect others. It's not to use words which can really be harsh and really be, hurt other people. So in a nutshell, when I talk about ethics, we're actually talking about our behaviors, what we think, what we say, and what we do. And this is what people see us. As a Rotarian, our club members see us in terms of what we think, what we say, what we do. The community that we serve also see us in terms of what we think, what we say, what we do. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. What is underneath that tip of the iceberg are our ethics and core values. That is the one that drives how we behave, how we think, how we say, and how we act. And this brings me to my second point. My second point says that ethics means we must always do the right thing right. Always do the right thing right. Let me share you a personal experience in Rotary. In one of my early clubs where I was in that club, there was one year, the president of the club was able to convince the board to award Paul Harris Fellowship to a member in the club who has made a lot of contribution to the club. Now, we all in Rotary, we make contributions, small or big, doesn't matter. But this particular president was able to convince the board to award her Paul Harris using the club fund, using the club budget to pay $1,000 to Paul Harris for the particular member to get. I was not happy with that, but since I was not in the board, so I could not influence the board. But the following year, I was the president. And when I was the president of the club, luckily, this was not implemented in the previous year. So they wanted to implement in my year. Then I cautioned the board. I said, look, I think the idea of recognizing a contribution by a member is good. That's the right thing to do. Any member, whether small or big, whatever they do right, we must recognize. But to use the club fund for this purpose and setting a precedent, it's not right. But since this was agreed in the previous, I didn't want to overrule. I said, let's find an elegant way of overcoming this. So what I did was, I suggested, if this person really deserved that recognition, and I'm sure members will agree with that, instead of using the club fund, let's pass the hat around. I said, let's pass the hat around. And to all the members, we have more than 20 members. If each of us put $50, we have the money for this. And this is voluntary, personal. So I passed the hat around. I took out my wallet. I put $50, the first one to put, we passed the hat around. Unfortunately, we only collected $600. So that tells two things. Not every member recognized that particular thing really deserved to be, because everybody is in Rotary in order to serve. It's not to seek for glory. It's not to seek for recognition. That is not important. So we give back the $600 to the rest of the members. So doing the right things right is very important. To recognize is important, but you must find a way to do it in the right way. So this brings me to the point about the Rotary Code of Conduct. I think Andre mentioned earlier on, we must conduct all of our personal, business, and professional affairs ethically, encouraging and fostering high ethical standards as an example to others. So this is about our behaviors, how we conduct ethically, and Andre has elaborated in full details the four-way test. It is an assessment to know whether our behavior is truthful or not. If our intent is wrong, it will show in our body language. We must also be fair to all concerned, build goodwill, better relationship, better friendship, and finally, beneficial to all concerned. So based on these inputs, I have actually rewritten what I mean by ethical leadership in Rotary. It's the conducting the affairs of Rotary with truthfulness. That's the first thing. We must be truthful. We must be honest. We must do it in a fair way that benefit all stakeholders for the goodwill and fellowship. So if we are very clear in our mind that ethical leadership is really our behavior about being truthful, fair, beneficial to others, then it's very easy. As a club or as an individual, when we look at the 7 areas of Rotary, we can tell, truthfully, where can I contribute? I'm very strong in vocational service. Where can I contribute? I'm very strong in finance. Where can I contribute? I'm very strong in community work. So you really can ask yourself, where is the truth and where you can be fair to those that you serve and how you can actually build goodwill. So these 7 areas of focus is really the platform for us to focus as a Rotarian. So in essence, I will put it very simply that ethics is about exercising our judgment and conscience for the benefits of others in order to serve above ourselves. It's really about our judgment and conscience. And in a nutshell, I put it this way, I like this quotation someone was mentioning here. What is ethical is what we feel good after. We do something and we feel good after. And you have a lot to be proud of as a club, as an individual, to feel good after. Your project real is really a project that you can feel good after. Adelina can feel good after every month after issuing the DG newsletter. When I first read that article, I said, this must be written by someone who really leveraged on her strength in this particular area. It's not just an ordinary newsletter. Shah Iskandar can be proud for teaming up with DG Dolly, come up with GEM and inviting people to speak. So these are all the things that you feel good after you have done something. So that's an example on Rotary. Then it brings me to my third message, and this is very interesting because it is how we are open, truthful, and honest on what we really want. See, we want so many things in life. I mean, we are human. We yearn something, we want something, we need something. But we must be open and truthful and not to be what we call it like a Formula One, scrambling around, like this. In order to reach one point to the other, we scramble around, we politic around. No. To me, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Be straight about it. And in Rotary, it forces us, especially when you look at the 4-way test, it forces us to be straight, to be truthful, to be fair, to be beneficial, and to have goodwill. It's straight. There is no meandering around it. Straight line. And with this, I like to quote this, and one of my favorite books that I've read by Konosuke Matsushita was when he wrote this book, Not for Bread Alone. He said, truth has a power of its own that never fails to move others, while platitudes and verbal gymnastics are irrelevant or worse, damaging. Very, very powerful statement. When I read this, I said, it's true. You want something, whether in Rotary, in business, or in life, be open about it. We don't go meandering around it, we go straight about it. And I believe if you are open about it, sincerity will eventually melt the heart, you will get what you want. And here I like to share you a story about this, where you really be open and truthful about what you want. This is Dubai Airport. If you have been through Dubai Airport, you find that it's a big airport, and a lot of flights from Dubai to Singapore takes a long time, in terms of transit time. So at one time, I was doing some work in Kuwait, and I had to travel to Dubai about 6 times, but still I couldn't get a silver frequency. I still on burgundy frequency, and because I was traveling on economy. And to wait for a flight from Kuwait via Dubai takes me 6 hours to wait. I couldn't stand. It's really a big airport and really restless. So one day, when I was in transit, I told myself, I got to use the lounge. I want to use the lounge. And I want to be honest with myself to request whether can I use the lounge, even though I have a burgundy card. I don't have a silver card. So I went to the business class lounge. I talked to the lady there and I told her, look, I like to take a bath, I like to take a good dinner, and I like to do my prayers, and I like to use your lounge. She said, well, are you a business class? No, I'm not. But how about your card? I'm a burgundy card. Oh, burgundy card, we only accept gold card here. But let me have a look at your card. So she took my card and she typed. And she said, oh, yeah, you are short of 30 points. If you have 30 points, you can use the silver room lounge across this pathway. Just 30 points. So by the time you reach Singapore, you would have got more than 30 points. Then I said, but honestly, I don't need to use it in Singapore. I want to use it now. I feel restless. I want to take a bath. I want to eat. Oh, so sorry, she said. But I didn't want to make a big hoo-ha about it. I was just smiling. Okay, thank you very much. I remained focused. I remained positive about it. Then I was thinking of finding a solution. Then she said, silver lounge. So I walked over to the silver lounge. And when I walked over to the silver lounge, there was a Korean lady at the front desk. So when I approached her, then I said, "Annyeonghaseyo." I spoke in Korean, means, hello, how are you? Good afternoon. But she said, "Annyeonghaseyo, you speak Korean?" I say, a little bit I learned. Then I told her frankly, I'm a burgundy card holder. I want to use the lounge, but I cannot use some, but I'm short of 30 points, She said, show me your card. So she checked. She said, oh yeah, that's true. You're short of 30 points. Then, if you have 30 points, you can use this lounge, the silver Chris. The silver lounge. But then she said, look, what the heck? My lounge is empty. Why should I deny you the use of lounge just because you're short of 30 points? Go ahead and use it. I got to use the lounge. And not only that, I met one lady. There was only one passenger there. I got to know her. She's a PhD scholar from Oxford in tattoo. I learned a little bit of a tattoo. I got a new friend from the Philippines. I took my bath. I had my dinner and I had my prayers. Because I was honest. I didn't want to have a vocal gymnastic trying to woo the lady. I just simply asked and I got it. 3 hours later, I was on board and my client actually put me on economy. So I had to squeeze myself onto the economy and sat there among other passengers. Just about before the plane departs, a huge, big Arab guy approached me. Huge, big Arab guy and asked more for my boarding pass. At 3 a.m. in the morning, you don't argue with a huge Arab guy asking you for, security guy for your boarding pass. And I said, okay. Then he took he looked at my boarding pass. He said, come, follow me. I said, where you taking? Follow me, she said. So I took he said, take your luggage. So I took my luggage from the overhead compartment and I followed him. I got upgraded to the business class. I never asked for it. But how did I get upgraded to the business class? Then on my seats, there was a beautiful leather toiletry bag, which of course is for me. So I took it. Then when I look at my next seat, nobody sits there. And there was another toiletry bag. I said, no, that's not yours. You don't take it, okay? I said, yeah, okay, I will not take it. Plane departed. Then I asked the stewardess, there's another kit there. It'd be nice if I can give this to my wife. And the stewardess said, go ahead and take it. It's yours. I asked, and I asked ethically. I want what I wanted. So see, this is the thing about life and about ethics is what I did was I attract to my life whatever I give my attention to. I gave my attention to wanting to eat, bathe, and pray. I got it. And I was positive and I was grateful for it. I was positive and I was ethical. So I was positive and ethical. And this is what we call the law of attraction. The law of attraction says, whatever your mind focuses on, you will get more of that. You focus more on ethics, you get more ethical situation. You focus on negative, you get more negative things. So basically what I'm trying to say about ethical leadership is, it's about speaking straight from the heart. No beating around the bush. Be open, be truthful, be honest on what we really want. So in summary, what I have discussed so far is, my first message was, there is no right way in doing the wrong thing. My second message is, always do the right thing right. This is being effective and being efficient. And the third message is, be open, be truthful, and honest on what we really want. Don't hide it. Of course, it must be realistic. If you ask something which is unrealistic, you probably may not get it. And finally, let me go to my fourth point on ethics. And like what Andre said, among the many traits, it is simply about respect. It's simply about respect. Ethics is simply about respect. And let me finish off with a final story on this in talking about ethics. I was in the district career seminar committee many years ago. And I was supposed to have a meeting at my house, a dinner meeting. There were 5 of us in the committee. I know all the 4 except, I know all the 3 except one I've never met, but I invited them to my house for dinner. So the invitation was for 8 o'clock for dinner. But somehow or other at 7 o'clock, my wife said, "Hey, there's a gentleman downstairs wanting to see you for a meeting." I said, "What? This one 7 o'clock, and 7 o'clock normally I do my Maghrib prayers. That's why I hold it on the 8 o'clock. But this guy, it's okay." So I came down and I saw the gentleman and I said, "Hey, hi." So I never met him before, but he's in the committee and we shook hands and all that. I said, "Actually, we're supposed to meet at 8 o'clock. Okay, no problem." He said, I can come back at 8 o'clock. No, you can sit here and have a cup of coffee, no problem. I just have to do my prayers. I come down and I talk with you. He said, no. I will come back at 8 o'clock. He insisted to leave the house and come back at 8 o'clock and let me do my prayers. Then he was carrying in his hand this thing. I didn't know what it was, but from my own knowledge, I think it must be either wine or whiskey or what. So he was nice enough to bring for the dinner this bottle wrapped in. But I think he realized, because he had never met me before, he realized that I'm a Muslim. I pray. And Muslims don't drink. So he probably said, it's not right for me to bring this to the dinner. That's why he wanted to leave. And when he left, he came back. I couldn't see this bottle anymore. He brought a box of chocolates. And he said, "Tengku, this is for your family." Then in my heart, I said, wow, this gentleman is so sensitive, so respectful, though he has never met me before, but his instincts tell me that he needs to understand and respect differences in our culture. So he understands and respect the difference of human existence, which is a hallmark of ethical leadership. And this gentleman is one of the 2 contenders for the 2024-2025 district governor position. So my call for action is this. We as Rotarians, we as business people, as organizational leaders, we must uphold the highest standard of ethical standards. That is how our behaviors is being shaped and noticed by others. We need to demonstrate unmatched integrity. People talk with us, our body language, our verbal, everything goes hand in hand in terms of our integrity. And finally, we must lead with the pearls of wisdom. And I conclude with a leader in history who has a lot of pearls of wisdom. And one of the things that she said, which I really liked, she said, disciplining ourselves to do what we know is right and important. So we need to discipline ourselves to do what we think is right and important. Leaving my house, taking away that wine bottle, coming back with chocolate is really doing the right things right. Although it's difficult, it is the high road to our pride, to our self-esteem, and to our personal satisfaction. Thank you very much for listening to me this afternoon. Question and answers.
Yes, thank you very much, CP Tengku, for enlightening us on what it means to have ethics in leadership and in our everyday lives. Ethics can be practiced from the smallest act and sharing how ethics goes beyond money. To reiterate, ethics is our moral beliefs or principles which influence our behaviors or conduct as a leader in respecting the laws, regulations, systems, customs, or beliefs of the people and community we interact with. I love your story on the law of attraction as well, on how you were able to get what you wanted ethically by being open and honest. Now, I'd like to open the floor to questions for our speaker, CP Tengku Indra. Do we have any questions? You can raise your hand, unmute. Okay, do we have? Yes, PP Mona.
Hi, Adelina. Hi,
Hi, Mona.
CP Tengku. Sorry, I don't have my camera on. I'm not dressed for Zoom. I remember what Tengku said just now. Ethics or having being ethical is doing things that make you feel good after that. I mean, you can sleep at night. But this is not a question, but probably just a sharing. I had a friend who said that being in the construction business means you have to sort of give, and take certain things. So if you want to get the project, if you want to win the tender and stuff like that. So I said, well, any business you can give and take if you wanted to get projects. But he said that in construction, it is something that you have to do in order for you to survive in the construction business. And so he justified what he's doing as sort of just giving gifts or just helping someone out by giving them something to sort of move them along the way in the decision-making process. So in that sense, maybe he felt good after doing that because he justified it as not bribery, if I would so say it, but more of sort of gift giving. So I guess there are certain people who are not ethical, but they think they are ethical because they justify what they're doing. So they feel good after doing whatever they're doing. Just a statement, if you have any comments on that.
I think they felt good for doing something wrong.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I have had many situations like that where I just simply stick to my my rules, my principles, and also to my religious beliefs. Normally, a situation like this, I look in the overall context, not only in terms of what is important in life, but also from a religious standpoint. To bribe is something which is really forbidden in Islam, and I'm sure in many other religions too.
Thank you, Tengku.
Welcome. Most welcome.
Thank you, Mona, for the sharing. Do we have any more questions or maybe some sharing? I think PP CG Lee, you have unmuted.
Okay, CP Tengku, just now you mentioned your club that you, the year before that, your board of directors approved to pay the PHF for a certain member.
Yeah.
Okay, by paying, I think probably it might be a bit, I mean, I don't know, I mean, it could be not very right, but some members might not feel paying from the club fund could not be a correct way to recognize a member. But maybe another thing which I can think of is why not? You see, certain clubs we have points for PHF. Also, instead of using club fund, we can use the points and maybe not really give full points. I mean, the member can give a certain amount. We match 1-to-1. Yeah. That probably would encourage it'll be a look more fairer, and instead of using the fund just to get someone, everybody also want to be a PHF because everybody is serving. Like you said, no, everybody's the same in Rotary, and there's shouldn't be any preference given to a particular candidate. That's my comment. Maybe
very good, good comment, PPCG Lee. There are many ways of doing things right. You know, what the president was trying to get the board to agree was to have a shortcut, use the club fund, 100% of the club fund, which is really a precedent which is really bad in the law.
But is there any reason given by the president that could be maybe the member has really do something great, or I mean, if there's no reason, probably that might not be the right decision per se.
There are reasons because that member did some good job, but like there are many others who also do some job. So
Right.
it was a personal selection by that president. It's not even a consensus like what Andre is trying to say. If he had got the club to concede 100% that the club fund can be used, then maybe my reasoning is weak. But it was his own judgment to get that member to be awarded with, you know, and he wooed the entire board to do that. So,
Okay.
Thank you, PPCGV. Do we have any more questions or sharings from the floor? Okay, I think
Maybe I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to
Okay.
pose this to CP Tengku. With regards to status quo, I was made to understand that in Rotary, whether it is ethical to address a person with status, for example, Datuk, Tan Sri, Tun, because when you are in Rotary, you're equal. So I just want to clarify and to just for curiosity purposes, because sometimes when we are, you know, attending functions and all, and then when we do our salutation, as to whether it is proper or ethical to address or not to address a person with status quo. Thank you.
well, President Majera, I have my own views on that, but basically I think PDG Andre or PDG Philip Chong would probably be in a better position to elaborate on that if they don't mind, you know. PDG Andre, you have things to clarify because this was spoken about in many occasions.
Oh, okay. Let me just share some thought on this. I think it depends very much on number one, how long has that person been in Rotary? If a new person with the title Tan Sri just came in and been inducted in Rotary yesterday, the chances is that he or she may still be expected to be addressed as Tan Sri, because that is what the community addresses him. All right. So eventually, hopefully, right, he can then blend in with the Rotary culture and change. But if not, then we as leaders in Rotary will have to address him what he is comfortable with. Now, sometimes it is very personal to the individual person that we are addressing. Some of the members who is a Tan Sri will say, hey, okay, since everybody is calling each other by name, please feel free to just call me by my name. So if you have got that permission, that's fine, use it. But this is for informal engagement. But in any formal engagement of Rotary, whether or not that person has given you a consent to just call him or her by the name, as long as it is in an official setting and in a ceremony, I think it is only proper that you need to have the proper protocol by addressing him with a complete salutation with a title, right? So that is in a formal setting of a ceremony where the MC will make the announcement and you are giving speech, you are addressing him, and in the salutation, you address him as Tan Sri. But after that, when you sit down and you have dinner with that particular person, if he is expecting you to address him as Tan Sri because he's not very familiar with the Rotary culture, then be it. But if he prefers and be comfortable to be addressed by his or her name, and you got the permission from him to do that, then do so. So at the end of the day, I think there is no right or wrong formula. It depends on the person that you are going to interact with, right? And you cannot force, in Rotary, we cannot force a person to be able to embrace a certain culture if he or she is not comfortable. So we just leave it to that particular person, and eventually, hopefully, he or she will realize that that may not be the culture in Rotary, so that's fine. I give you an example. Within Rotary itself, in our district, PDGs are being addressed as PDGs, whether it's in formal setting or informal setting, all right? But before I became a DG, I already told my Rotarians, unless it is an official ceremony, feel free to call me by my name. Now, you know what? When I attended Rotary International Assembly and Rotary events, even though they are RI president or past RI director or even the director, we don't call them by the title. We call, for instance, Cheka Meta as Cheka. When we meet him in person at the International Assembly, hello Cheka, how are you? Same thing when I actually met the immediate past RI president, Holger. We call him Holger. I spent 1 week before the DGE arrived for the final training in San Diego. And with him, he was there looking at us, how we are being trained as a assembly training leader. We all address him as Holger. So each district has got its own culture. So leave it to the individual person that you are interacting with, how comfortable they are and how they wish to be addressed. So there is no right or wrong. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Yes, very much. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
All right, most welcome.
Just to add a little bit, and I agree with Andre on this formal or informal setting. But first, of course, we must get the name right. Sometimes I hear people get the name wrong, especially Asian names or Chinese or Indian names and all that. I think it's the onus is on us to check with them what's the best way to pronounce their name. You know, and that's important. But sometimes people do allude to you to say, hey, when you talk to that guy, you better call him Insignor so and so, otherwise he'll be very angry. So somebody caution you, and when I do that with that person, and he smiles and he responds to me. So to me, that was a respect to enable me to establish closer rapport. So if I don't call him Insignor, he may not like it, and he will probably may not be able to develop. Just for instance, in my club, there is a member who is a PhD. I've been addressing him as Dr. So-and-so. He's not a medical doctor, Dr. So-and-so. And he never tells me, Tengku, don't call me doctor. So I continue to address him as Dr. So-and-so, whether verbally or in writing. To me, that's just a sign of respect. And he has worked so hard to get that doctorate. So why not just show that appreciation? So basically, it's a matter of respect.
Sorry, isn't it a lot to do with individual PDG's egos? I can call PDG Andre and have a long chat with him, okay? He's a humble guy, or PDG Philip Chong. But there are some PDGs who would be very offended if they were not addressed as PDGs. And I think it's a lot to do with the individual's own ego or insecurity, whatever you call it. So you got to be careful about it.
Yeah, very true.
I think what Andre said is true. When we went for our PG training in San Diego International Assembly, we really, unofficial, we call each other, even the RI presidents, like Ravi for my year, we call him Ravi, how are you, and things like that. So really, I think it's what I call something that you learn to how to be respectful to each other and things like that. I think it's something that yeah. But maybe Asian depends. Some of the person may feel that you have to address his title, and things like that. So I think we just give the respect, his culture. Yeah. There's no right or wrong. I think what Andre pointed out rightly. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you both, PP Kush and PDG Philip. So I guess the key word here is respect, just like what CP Tengku Indra has shared with us today. All right, so we have actually approached the end of today's talk. Thank you so much for all the questions or the sharings from members of the floor and especially from our speakers today. So I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to our speakers who were so kind to agree to be part of our talk today and impart invaluable knowledge and experience with all of us. Thank you to our RCKK members as well as all Rotarians and guests in attendance today for the interest and support. I hope that you had great takeaways and golden nuggets from both of our speakers today. The next talk in this series will be on 22nd January 2022 with two more speakers sharing on storytelling through photos and videos with your smartphones. More information will be provided closer to the date. As mentioned earlier, our next session will be the Vocational Service Workshop on the art of giving feedback, which will be conducted by Silma Jepin, who is a confidence coach and distinguished Toastmaster. She's also the daughter of Pearl's very own Norma. The workshop will be covering how to give constructive, encouraging, and motivating feedback, as well as how to receive feedback to improve our performance. If you would like to join the workshop, do click on the link in the Zoom chat. Let me just put that link in. Or you can scan the QR code on the screen now. Okay, if you'd like to join, do click on the link. I'll be sending out the posters soon as well. Okay. So before we conclude today's session, let us take our second group photo. Please switch on your videos and smile at the camera, not the screen. Let me put into gallery view. And please refrain from chat. Okay. So everybody ready? If you're fit for Zoom photo, please do switch on your video. Okay.
Tengku, I think you need to sit a little bit back. Your hips. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Tengku. Yeah.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3. And let's do a freestyle. 1, 2, 3. Or you can put filters on. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great show.
Have a good weekend. Yeah.